All right, welcome back to episode 2 of Let's Get Transparent. Today we have a good friend from our church. Will you state your name for the record?
My name is Arron Congleton.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, man?
I'm 42. I work at Boss Tie Down. Been working there coming up on 7 years. Longest job I've ever had. Um,
Where do you go to church at, brother?
I go to church at the river, a church for whosoever,
Where at?
in Alto, Texas.
How long have you been attending church?
8 or 9 years at this one.
Gotcha.
Do you get anything out of it?
Oh,
Going?
yeah. I get lots of things out of it. The presence of God, number one. We get family, love, peace, joy,
Heck yeah.
chance to grow. Amen.
So, when did the service really start drawing you in?
I'll say probably maybe it's 3 months or so, 2 or 3 months after, maybe a month, I don't know, like 2 months in.
Gotcha. You've been going to church for years. Your church started, if you started listening to it, drawing you in. When did you realize that you needed to take Jesus serious?
When my plans didn't work as I was living for me, uh, everything that I did was just turned terrible.
Well, good. Well, I think it happens to a lot of us. I know it happened to me too. Things were never going as they were expected. A lot of things started and just halted because I didn't have any faith in the Lord and didn't have any faith in myself. And that really changed when I started going to church and putting God first. It's been great. I get said in the episode before, I get to do this with my kid, man. You know how awesome it feels?
Well, that's
And
good.
not only is she wanting to do this, she's following the Lord, which is awesome to watch. It's a beautiful thing. Let's see, we got the big question and kind of the reason why we started this.
How is it being transparent?
Transparent to me is like the way I like to look at it is, whenever they take pictures with a camera, you have a negative, right? And then they take that negative and they take it to a dark room with red lights and they put it on this photocopy paper and they shine a light through it, boom, and then it creates a positive. So that's kind of how I look at being transparent because I could bring my negative to the light. Usually a leader who's already walked through it and knows, every step of the way that I need, that has the advice that I need for it, and I release that to them, and then they'll speak the light of Christ into it, and bam, we turn it into a positive.
Mm-hmm. But how is the transparency helping with other people, like new people or seeing just being able to be transparent and not so much as going and telling everyone your whole life story, but to be honest, to be open. Like how is that? How has that helped you? And how do you go about telling these folks stuff like that? It's just kind of showing them your transparency.
At first you really don't want to tell nobody nothing. You just kind of want to fix it yourself. That's how I was when I first started this walk. Truly started this walk. I just want to stay to myself. But then I learned that the more that I opened up, the more that I was transparent, and the more freedom I was able to get from that because I was bringing it into the light and I wasn't just holding on to it to myself.
That's good, man. Heck yeah.
What are you doing to overcome the struggles of being transparent?
Well, it's kind of like lifting weights. The more you do it, the easier it gets. And sometimes it doesn't feel good to be transparent because there's some things that you're like, man, I shouldn't have did this. I can't believe I'm in this situation. But as you're transparent and you heed to the wise advice that's given to you, that hey, you should do this right here. You need to go and humble yourself to this person, or do this or do that, and you do what they say, whether you think it's right or not. Then that's whenever you actually experience, the breakthrough that you need, the freedom that you need.
That's good, man. Heck yeah. Well, I mean, you've got a wonderful story. You've got a great testimony. Yes, I've heard it before, and I always enjoy hearing it. I get a lot of joy out of it. You got to. Can you just kind of give us your testimony?
Okay.
Or not give us, but give the listeners.
Okay. I'll try to keep it as short as I can. I grew up young in the church house. Probably my youngest years, I was probably 8 or 9, going into my uncle's church, and I just remember just seeing everything, not knowing what was going on or what. I just kind of just taking it in, absorbing it, and then for some reason we veered out back from going to church, and then my grandmother, she was like my church provider, and she would get me on the weekends, like, and take me to church, and she sent me to youth camp, and and she would. I was in youth camp one year, and I gave my life to the Lord, and you know I thought I was good. I got my ticket type thing, and didn't really know no better, and I ended up just kind of living for myself, doing what pleased me. Didn't know that I was supposed to allow the Lord to live through me and live for Him and what pleased Him, which required me to deny myself, pick up my cross, and follow Him. Didn't really know what that meant, but I kind of went out and was doing my thing, got into drugs, and had pretty good jobs, but I could never keep the jobs. I'd work for at the most 2 years at a certain job, and then something would happen. I'd either fail a drug test, or I would do something like there was this one time that I had got a doctor's note, but I needed it to cover for my for the days that I missed. So I went and I changed the date on it, and then they called me in the office and said, "Oh, they showed me the original one from the doctor that they had faxed over, and then they showed the one that I brought in, and they said, 'Did you do this?' And I was like, 'Yes.' And I was like, 'Okay, well, we can't have you working here no more.' So I lost the job for that. Another job that I had, I was fixing to get promoted, and I'll never forget it. I was 18 years old, and I started at this air conditioning company in Palestine, and I'm learning as a hand at first, but then I picked it up so well that I started going with the service tech guy, and we'd go out, and he'd send me in there like, "Okay, you go see what's wrong with this equipment, and then come tell me what you think it is, and I'll check you." Well, I was getting it right most of the time, and they liked my work and how I was learning so quick. So the boss man called me in his office one day, and he said, "Aaron, we was looking to send you to Freon School to get your license." And I looked, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was like, "Hey, I told myself that, when I graduated high school, I was never going back to school." And he just kind of sit back and was like, "Okay, well, if you're not looking to pursue greater things in this company, then we don't need you here." So me going, yeah, so me going to get a promotion in that, and then not really wanting to go back to school to get my Freon, which was like maybe 6 months. I got fired in the same day, So that's just some of the dumb choices I've made, as a young adult, learning and not really caring about too much. Well, I ended up, like I said, I was into drugs, and I was selling drugs and this and that, and I ended up getting pulled over one time by a state trooper, and I was actually running from him, trying to get away because all the drugs I had, I was trying to get rid of it. And he pulled me over after I pulled over. He caught up to me, and long story short, I ended up going to jail. I had kids, or I had my first daughter, and then I ended up going to jail for that charge 2 years after I got pulled over. I went to jail, a state jail, and I was in there, and my last month there, right before I went to the halfway house, my grandma died. Not my church, but my grandma, but the other one, she died. and they let me go to the funeral, and I came back in, and then that next month I went into the halfway house, and I was there about 2 months, and then I got a phone call. Hey, it's my sister on the phone. She said, "Hey, Daddy had a wreck and he died." So, 2 deaths in a row, real close. And then I got out of that, and then the third month there, I went back out and did good for like 6 months, and I hung around the same people and got right back into the lifestyle. And I got pulled over one day on the loop, and as the cop comes up, I had a suspended license, so I told the state trooper, I was like, "Hey, I got a suspended license. I just want to let you know that." She's like, "Okay, well, if you can make arrangements to come pick your vehicle up later, have somebody come pick you up, and you leave your vehicle here and just." So she said, "Somebody with a good license." That's what it was. She said, "If you have somebody with a good license, you could call to come pick you up. You could leave your vehicle here on the side of the road and make arrangements to get it later." So I'm thinking, who do I know that has a good license? Because the lifestyle I was living, nobody I could think of had one. And I was like, "I'll call my grandma, the church going grandma." Sure enough, she's like, "Yeah, yeah, I'll be right there." So she hangs the phone up. She comes on up there. And, I'm sitting in the cop car at this time, arrested in handcuffs. And she pulls over on the opposite side of the loop. And I remember the cop waved her over, "Come on over." And as she did this, I saw my grandma nod her head and put the car in gear, and she goes to just turn, and she didn't look. She got T-boned by a brown Dodge truck. Long story short, than that, she ends up going to the hospital, life flighted, and 3 days after I went to jail, I got out and I went to go visit her, and I noticed that her short term memory was kind of gone, and but she had long term memory, and I felt so bad for it. I blamed myself for it, and it just led me deeper and darker into the lifestyle that I was already living, because that's just how I coped with things, and didn't know any other way. And about maybe 6 months after the wreck, she dies.
Mm.
Okay, so if that wasn't enough, CPS ends up getting involved in my life, and so they take our kids, and I have three of them. They take our kids and they tell us, "Okay, if you could do this, this, and this, then you do it long enough, and we see that you're doing good, then we'll give them back to you." Well, I would do good for a month or so, and then I fall right back into it, and then it was like a vicious cycle. I was keep on repeating, and it got down to where they was going to take our kids, or we could sign them away, and I was like, man, but I ended up signing them away because I knew they was going to take them. So I just went ahead and signed them. Here you go. Here it is. Hardest thing I ever did, but probably one of the best things I ever did, because they didn't, they wouldn't have to grow up watching who I was, because I thought I was all right, but, for where I'm at now and where I was then, I could see where I was, and that wasn't a good spot. But anyway, so I was shameful of that. And I get going down these dark paths, because I just that ruined me. I didn't even like to be around kids. I could see them. I didn't even want to look at them. It bring back memories, and it just hurt so bad. So if there was kids that came around, I'd try to leave the area, so I wouldn't have to look at them. But kids was always my thing before that happened. I just love kids. When that happened, it did something to me. But anyway, so I'm living jumping from couch to couch, anywhere I could stay. I was just moving around a lot, and just doing things that normal people don't do, like robbing places, this and that. I just trying to feed my addiction. But God, He allowed all that to get me to a place where He could speak to me, that I would know that it was Him that was speaking to me. And I was in this hotel in Rusk, Texas, which I never go to Rusk, but I happened to be in this hotel this night, and and I'm hearing all these voices, and all of a sudden I hear this one voice that says, "Get your stuff and go." And I'm like, man, I don't know. I just knew I just had to do it. So I go there and I grab my backpack, I throw it over my shoulder, and I go out to leave. I get out to the road, and I didn't know what was to the right or what was to the left. So I just took the left, and I started walking. And I walked all the way to Alto, Texas.
The big city, yeah.
Big city, Alto, yeah. I mean, I've seen Alto before when I went to Shallow Ridge, or when I worked in the oil field. I passed through it. Knew it was a small town once I seen it was Alto, and I got there and I'm like, man, I don't know anybody here. I don't have no money. If I go in a Dollar General or the stores or whatever, they're gonna catch me stealing. So, eventually they're gonna be like, hey, this same guy's coming in, ain't buying nothing. They're just gonna catch on. So I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I can't stay in this little town. So I turned around and started walking back to the hotel that I just came out of. And my knee started hurting. Man, I gotta find somewhere to rest. So I found a spot, and it was like a little creek that ran up under this road, and I missed a spot. Right before the whole. Let me back up a little bit. All right, so as I'm walking from Rusk, I get going down the road, and I'm hearing all these negative voices. I'm just negativity everywhere, as if something was chasing me, and then the first sign of anything that was good, I got in front of this log cabin house, which I didn't know whose house it was at the time. I know now whose house it was, but the first time that I got in front of that house, and the first time that I heard anything good was in front of this log cabin house, and it turned out to be pastors at the church that I'm at now, which and actually when I was walking back, my knee started hurting, and I found that creek, and it was right close by that house that I went up under there, and I stayed there for like 2 nights. And then the second night I was there, I was thinking, man, I'm gonna go back to that hotel, try to slide in and get some of that company breakfast, or some of that breakfast that they serve in the front for the people who stay there. And that was my plan. When the sun came up, I was gonna start walking there and make it by breakfast time, which doesn't make no kind of sense because it took me all day from 5 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon to make it from Rusk to Alto on the walk. But that's
he was gonna make it one way.
Yeah, that just shows you how my mind was. And for whatever reason, it had been God. He nudged me to get down on my knees and pray that third morning. So I ended up getting down on my knees, and I was like, God, I need new people, new places. I need new everything. I didn't know if God even heard me because I ain't prayed to him in a long time. And I said, amen. And I grabbed my backpack, threw it over my shoulder, and I started walking to Rusk. And as I'm looking on the side of the road for something to eat, I, I didn't care what it was either. If it was something edible, I was going to eat it. I was that hungry. I ain't had nothing to eat in a couple of days. Well, I see this yellow bag of Lay's chips, and it's, one of those snack size. And it looked like it was opened up and looked like something was in there. I was like, all right. And I go to pick it up, and it's full of water. And I'm like, probably said a cuss word or two. and I look up, and there's this white Oldsmobile pulling over to the shoulder. I'm like, all right, I got a ride. And so he's pulled over, and his windows roll down on the passenger side, and I see a Bible right there in the passenger seat. So I know this guy's a good dude. And he asked me, hey, you need a ride? I was like, yes. He was like, okay, hop in. So I was like, all right. I hopped in, and he had church music playing on the worship music playing on the radio. And he asked me, he said, where are you headed? And I said, I don't know, as far as you can get me that way. And he said, okay. And then he opened up to me. He was transparent with me, saying, he's like, yeah, man, I came to this Alto place. I've been here about 3 years or so. And as I was leaving Pasadena, I walked all the way from Pasadena to Alto. It took me a few days, but I made it to Alto, and this one guy I ran into, he offered this discipleship program for me, and I went ahead and I said yes to it. And so he had just graduated that discipleship program, And he said, you think you're interested in anything like that? And I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, I didn't say it out loud, but I'm thinking, man, I don't know what else I'm going to do. And I was like, yeah, I'm interested. And he's like, okay, yeah, let me call the guy. So he calls the guy up, and he said, yeah, this guy, he's a man of very few words. And I'm thinking, I don't know why he just told me that. So he calls him up. He's like, hey, Paul. He was like,
Paul,
yeah. Like, hey, Paul, I got this guy I just picked up, and he's interested in the home and this and that. And he said, okay, all right, bye. And he hangs up, right? And I'm like, man, it's a fake phone call. That's what I'm thinking, because it was like too short. And so we get to, he asked me, he said, when's the last time you ate? I said, man, it's been a couple of days. He said, okay, I'm going to take you up here to McDonald's. And I want to buy you something to eat. I'm like, all right. So I go in there to get something. I order my food, and I'm already thinking about leaving, right? In my mind, I'm thinking about where am I going to find my next cigarette and this and that. And I guess the Holy Spirit had told him to tell me. He said, okay. He said, whatever you do, he said, don't leave. Paul's going to be here to pick you up. He had to go to work, but Paul was coming to pick me up. So I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to wait then. Because in my mind, I was going to leave. But he told me that, the very word that I needed at that moment, and I chose to stay. I waited about 30 minutes or so on, and Paul showed up. And that was the beginning of my discipleship. I went into the home, not knowing anybody. Kind of the first month or so, I sit there on the couch and just kind of look at the ground and just have all these random thoughts of what I should have did, what I could have did, how I could have fixed this, or why this happened or that happened, and what I could have did to do better. All these thoughts would happen. And I was stuck in that. I was depressed. I was blaming myself. I was shameful. And it wasn't until maybe a month or so in, and we're in the prayer circle, and I'm sitting there praying for somebody, and I open up my eyes, and there's a lady there, and Paul's with her, and she says, Aaron, I got to ask you a question. I was like, what is it? She's like, do you have a daughter? And I'm like, man, I got two of them. And she's like, oh my gosh. She said, I saw your daughter's face and I saw your face, and God's going to take her heart and bring it back to your heart, take your heart, bring it back to her heart. And I didn't know that this was in Malachi, how it says that daughters' hearts to the father and the father's hearts to the daughters, or sons and to the father, fathers to the sons. And I was like, wow, and whenever she told me that, or the Holy Spirit told me that through her, that's whenever the shame just knocked it off of me. And I wouldn't, because I had a choice to be transparent in that moment. Okay, no, I don't have no kids. I signed them away. I could have told her, no, I don't have no children.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, yeah, I do have children. And that was the opportunity for the growth in me, and for God to do a work in me with that. And then there was another time that I was still, so that shame was gone, but I was still blaming myself, and I was still depressed from calling my grandma to pick me up, and a couple of other things. And I'm sitting there. We're actually getting ready for prayer, and I'm there talking to somebody that's there, and our pastor stands up and says, "Okay, the Lord just spoke and said that there's somebody who's been suffering from depression for a very long time, and he said if you come up here right now, he's going to take it from you." And I looked at Nate, the guy I was sitting. I took my hat off, I threw it down. I said, "That's me, Nate. I got to go." I went up there and I got prayer. I don't know what he said, how he prayed, or what. All I know is as he was praying, I had my hands up like this, eyes closed, and what I saw was God's face in a fiery flame. That's what I saw. And my whole body just heated up like I was in an oven, like a hot summer day times 10, just hot. God was purifying everything in me. And that's whenever the depression left me, and he purified my vessel and gave me a smile that I still have today.
Yeah, that's what tell them what they call them.
They call wait.
Was it the kids? I've only heard it a couple times from you.
What? Your nickname?
Yeah, one of them.
They call you Smiley.
Oh yeah, they call me Smiley. Someone's called me creek water before because when I was in that up under that creek, I didn't have nothing to drink, but there was some creek
I think
water
it was
there.
Stacy. I heard him say, "Old creek water." I was like, "What?"
I was drinking some of that creek water. Oh, it wasn't too good, but it was all right for the moment.
Yeah.
Okay, so it didn't stop there. You know, I'd had a charge that I had a possession charge that I had before I came here that I hadn't been to court yet, and I'm in a men's home maybe 4 months or so, and maybe 3 months. I don't remember how long it was. And there's a situation that happens, and I got offended at it because it didn't go the way I expected it to, and I had a court date coming up that week, so it kind of I needed to go to court, but I let the offense kind of push me out, and it did, and so I go to court and I get on probation, and I'm gone for like maybe 9 months to a year, but I only went into probation one time when I first got out. So I never went back. Well, I ended up coming back here, kind of running from everything, and I knew this place was good because I experienced the love and everything was has been working good for me while I was here. And I get there, I get here, and I'm going to I get back in the home, and I'm going to the program, the discipleship again, and it gets down to like the last month, right before I'm supposed to graduate, and the Lord starts speaking to me each day. I'm talking about every day. He was faithful to keep talking to me and telling me this. He's like, "You need to take care of this probation." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I put it off. The next day, and you take care of this probation. And finally, I'm like, "Okay, what do I need to do with it?" And he's like, "Well, you need to go get some wise counsel for it." It's like, "All right, that's what I'll do." I go to my pastor with it, and I haven't told nobody that I was on probation, so they had no idea. And I go in there, and I'm feeling, like, man, this transparency is going to, it's going to, I don't know what's going to happen with it. And they said, "Well, have you called them?" I was like, "No." He was like, "Well, that's the first thing I would do is call them." I said, "Okay." It was just simple,
Yeah.
And so I was like, "All right, I'll do that." So I'd made up my mind that I'm going to tell them everything. I'm going to tell them, "Hey, if you want me to come turn myself in tomorrow, I'll come turn myself in. I have somebody take me there. If you want to come pick me up, this is where I'm at." I just laid it all out there. It was like, if I have to redo this discipleship program again, then I'm gonna redo it. So it turns out that when I called them, they said, "Oh, okay, you're supposed to graduate next week." And I was like, "Yes, sir." He's like, "Well, how about this? How about you go ahead and graduate and then call me, come turn yourself in the day after you graduate." I'm like, "Okay, I can do that." So the weekend that I'm supposed to graduate shows up, and it happens to be our 15-year anniversary at the church.
Yeah.
And my pastor says, he says, "Oh, we just got too much going on this weekend. We're going to have to do it next weekend." I'm thinking, "Oh my God, what are they going to think down there at the probation office? They're going to think I'm trying to run still." So I called them up that day. I was supposed to turn myself in. And I said, "Hey, look, I can't." They said that it's going to be next weekend. He said, "Okay, it's not a big deal. We can do it next weekend. Just come after you graduate, just come turn yourself in." I'm like, "All right." So I graduated. The next day I turned myself in. I go in there and it's the last charge that I had. I go in, I'm in a good mood, good attitude, and I'm sitting there. They clothe me. I get taken back to the back, and as I'm back there, just got all my bed made, and I'm laying down, and they get on the loudspeaker, "Congleton." I'm like, "Yeah, you want to be a trustee?" I'm like, "Yeah." So they come and they said, "We're coming to get you." So they come out there and they get me and they put me in the kitchen. Out of all places they could have put me, they put me in the kitchen. So now I'm getting to go through the jailhouse and I'm getting to serve people food at each location, each little pod. And we got people looking out the window. "Hey man, well you in jail? Why you smiling so big?" Then I was like, "All right, there's an opportunity to tell you what God has done in my life." And in the little bits of times that I had, it was good. And so needless to say, it comes time for me to go to court. And I go to court and I'm sitting there and I'm right there with my lawyers. And he's like, "Okay, this is what we're going to do. this is what they're wanting to do. If you sign today, then you'll be out in like a week or two. And I'm thinking in my mind, I'm fixing to ask him, okay, give me the pen, I'm gonna sign. And I hear the Lord tell me, patience. I was like, man, it's like I knew what he was telling me. You can't sign yet. So I was like, all right, I can't sign. And they're like, they looked at me like, what? I was like, I can't sign. I was like, all right. We go in front of them. They send me back to the jail, and I'm in there waiting on the next month or so for the court to take me back in front of the judge. And in the meantime of that, a guy that was over the ODR cook, which cooked for the all the officers.
Officers, yeah.
And so he leaves. He catches chain. He goes. Well, Lord had already given me favor with the officer in the kitchen. She liked me. She was always in good moods, and she was like, "Okay, Smiley, I'm gonna put you over." Yeah, she called me Smiley everywhere we go. Smiley, Smiley. Like, all right, I accept it. But anyway, she's like, "We're gonna put you over to ODR cook," and I was like, "All right, we'll do that." So now, instead of just having the influence that God was giving me through the inmates, now I'm able to have influence with the officers too, which was pretty cool because they had questions too, and I had, testimony I could share the hope that's in me and what God's done and this and that. And we'll just say, after I got out of jail, came right back, you know, and been here ever since. And God's been good to me. My kids have recently, after from hearing the promise, maybe 5 years after that, they had, I look for them everywhere. I look for them on Facebook, type the name in, Instagram, TikTok, all that. Couldn't find them nowhere. And I'm like, fine. I don't know where they're at, Lord, but I trust that you're going to bring them. You're going to do it. Well, one day my son had reached out to me. And I was like, wow, and it was just an amazing experience, because my oldest daughter was 6 whenever all this CPS thing started happening, and then she was 18 whenever they got back in contact with them.
It's good, man.
Yeah.
The Lord did that. It's awesome.
Yes, that was all the Lord.
And just say this, and I've watched quite a bit of it. It's from, I don't remember when you first got on. I was there. So I showed up at like 2014, 2015 when I married Gwen. And then I remember you vaguely, and then I remember times in church when I was actually going and participating, that they were saying, "Hey, do you want to write letters to Brother Arron?" I'm like, I don't know this guy. I remember that part. And then you showed back up, and I was like, man, look at this guy smiling all the time. Who is that? Why is he always smiling? But I was also growing in the Lord. I didn't know. I didn't feel the joy I feel now because I didn't let him in. That's actually really cool, man. This is not part of the story I don't think I've ever heard. It was really cool. But now to get rekindled with your kids, God's got more, and I can see it now.
There's always more.
Yeah, I'm gonna speak this out. Those kids are going to come by and you're going to see them. They're going to be in the church one day with us. You're also speaking that into existence.
Amen.
That's going to be good. You got anything more to add to your testimony?
Yeah, I got something. I don't know about more of the testimony, but I do got one thing that's like about transparency.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm a dreamer, so I dream every time I go to sleep. I dream something. God shows me videos that I get to experience some things, and at first I didn't know what he was saying to me. I just see it and I'm like, wow. I try to interpret it myself, but the more that I pressed in and was more transparent with other people, like say for instance, I had a dream that had you in it, and I'd go and I'd share that part of dream to you. Hey, look, this is what I had a dream of, and this is all that was happening in it. And then the transparency that I got back was, hey, oh yeah, we're going to do this today, and this and that, and just from that transparency part of that, I was able to start seeing what God was really saying with certain things that you dream about.
Mm-hmm. Well, gifts, man, that's really cool. Yeah, I'm experiencing a few things myself. I'm just also going to my leaders and also you, talking about it with you, being transparent with you about some of these because you're walking through it, and And it's kind of really awesome to get some feedback on it because some of that, I don't know what I'm doing, man. You know what I mean? But I also want to be a good steward and want to pass it on, which is another reason why we're doing this. Is that it's really cool.
I do have one other thing that just kind of popped up. All right, so whenever I in my testimony, how I'd gone back out there, and then I came back to start the discipleship over.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'd walk through. You know, once you taste the goodness of the Lord, then you go back out there to your vomit. Pretty much, it's 7 times worse. I actually experienced that. It's no fun. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. When I did come back from that, it's like we had church that night, and I knew that from everybody's like, "Oh, Aaron, I was so glad to see." I could see the love, I could feel the love, but my mind was still kind of tormented and this and that. Well, I tell you what happened, and this is how powerful worship is. I was locked in my own prison. We'll just say that with my mind. But whenever they turned the worship music on and everybody started worshiping, I decided, you know what, I'm going to get up and I'm going to worship too. And I threw my hands up and I just started worshiping, truly worshiping, not just singing a song, just digging deep into it. And as I'm worshiping the Lord, it's like all of a sudden it's like this black just started going in, like zero going in. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to about like that, and I was like, I'm about to pass out. I had to sit down. But all of a sudden, when it got to that, and I went to go sit down, I felt something just lift off of me. It left me. So that devil had left me through the worship because he ain't going to worship the Lord. No, that's how powerful worship is. That's one of my key things in this walk. I love worship.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this before. I like the worship part because when I start singing and I actually participate, because sometimes you're scared. You feel like you look silly standing up doing what all these other people are doing, you're mimicking them. But no, once I actually engage in it, I feel like this tingle in my back of my skull and my neck, and I hear what you feel like. It's not like it feels like somebody's lifting off of you. And it's just like I just feel overwhelmed with peace, and it's a really wonderful feeling. And to do it with everyone there, it's crazy. It's like, wow, now I get it. Now I get it. I feel it. It's like there is something to this. This is not just something they're doing because they're crazy church people. No, we're supposed to praise God.
Yeah, there's many ways you could praise Him and worship Him. When I first started, like during the singing at church, I used to, I have my eyes open. I'm like, I want to raise my hands or just sing, or how I want to, or get down on my face, or however I want to do it. I used to think, what are these other people thinking? But now, I don't think that no more. It's like I don't got comfortable with it. If they could think whatever they want to think, I'm gonna worship how I'm gonna worship. That's how I'm with it.
Amen.
So, Aaron, you serve a lot in the church. What does it mean for you to serve, and how has it changed your walk?
One thing that God He's given me a servant's heart, and I believe this is how I kind of look at it, that what I've walked through, what I've came out of, has and God has done everything in this church and showed me, hey, this is me. This is my house. These are my people. This is me through my people. And why not serve the house of God? That's His house. Why not put forth that effort back into the church? Because He's done a lot of things in my life, and I love giving back to the very thing that has helped me out. It's like somebody does something good for you, you always want to return the favor. Do something good for them.
Yeah. Now, what I wanted to say too was great because what you guys didn't know he didn't say, but he went through the discipleship home and now he is over one of the homes, which is really, really cool. Kind of leads me into this question. I've witnessed you speak and pray truth to many people, to include myself, which is thank you so much for your time and just being able to have the time for it. Sometimes we get so busy in our lives, and I'm guilty of this, of not giving the time to the people that have come to me and asked me to include family, friends, anyone at the church. I'm getting better at it, like just being able to talk to someone. But no, you're very bold in that, which is awesome. And I was just wondering, what helps you with that boldness?
You know,
it takes away the fear from just being able to say, hey, if I spilled my guts now, you've got boom.
yeah, what helps me with it is, you know, I haven't always got it right, but neither have the people that, have been over me. But I always went and did whatever they asked me to do. If you ask me to do this, I'm going to do it that way. Because that's, you're supposed to honor your leaders. And that's how you're going to find out what you're supposed to do and what you're not, because you'll find the results of whatever they ask you to do. You'll get the results of it. And what's helped me is you're either going to be obedient or you're going to be rebellious to the Holy Spirit. And me being rebellious to the Holy Spirit, hey, go pray for this person. I don't think somebody else will pray for them. God, send somebody else. I've done that plenty of times. I give you an example. All right, the very first time I was in the men's home, and we went to Walmart, and our leader said, "Okay, each one of y'all go pick out one thing that y'all want, and bring it back." And I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go do that." Well, I happened to walk by this couple that was talking to, and they was talking about their daughter and how she had like a CPS case going on. And I wasn't trying to hear them, but the Lord allowed me to hear this. And then He started talking to me about it. I want you to go talk to these people about your situation. Go share your testimony with them about your kids. And I'm like, man, okay. And I'm still looking. I'm looking for trying to figure out what I'm gonna get for our for the house. And as I walk by this meat section, right there on display, there's some rain boots for a little kid and a book for a little kid. And it's like God was speaking to me. Go share, go talk to these people. I'm like, okay, God, if they're over here on this aisle that I'm about to go down, and they're at the other side of the store, and if they come over here while I'm down this aisle, then then I'll do it, right? And I'll know it's you. I was trying to reason a way out. I was trying to justify it. And I'm sitting there on the aisle, and I'm trying to get it real quick and get off that aisle. And sure enough, here they come. Whoop, right down there. I'm like, oh, I was like, well, Lord, I don't know if that's really you. And then by the time we get everybody got their one thing that was getting, we head out to the checkout stand. And I don't know where this couple was, but I'm like, okay, Lord, if they're out here by this register, I know it's you, and I'll and I'll talk to them. We get up there, and I'm looking every register. I was like, where are they at? Okay, they're not here. All right, Lord, it must not have been you. And we're sitting there checking out, and there's a register open behind us. Here they come. Here they come. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm getting I'm getting all fearful because I was brand new at it and I didn't know what I was supposed to say, how I was supposed to say it, or even if God was going to help me with it. I didn't trust Him. And sure enough, as we're getting, and I'm talking to them while they're checking out, I'm like, okay, if they finish checking out by the time we finish checking out, and we get going out the door, then I'll do it. And sure enough, we get our receipt and we get going, and they're still checking out. I'm like, all right, yes, it must not have been you, Lord. And then all of a sudden, my leader stops to put the receipt in his wallet, and it's taking him a good minute. here they come. I'm like, oh Lord. I'm like, okay, Lord. If they go, I knew where we was parked, but I didn't know where they was parked. Yeah. I'm like, oh Lord, if they go, the same way we go, then I'll stop. And at this time, I haven't told nobody as the Lord's been speaking to me about talking to this couple. And we go to the left. Sure enough, they're right behind us. They go to the right. I'm like, guess that wasn't you, Lord. We get out there to the car, we load our groceries up, and we go over there to Murphy's. And by this time, I'm not stressing at all. I'm relaxed. I'm actually talking to Brother Casey behind us. He's in the seat behind, and we're just having a conversation. And all of a sudden, this car pulls up to get gas, and bam, there they are. I'm like, oh my God, and Lord, I'm not doing it. Oh, no. I'm not doing it. No, I told the Lord. And that's how it came to me because I experienced that rebellion. I felt it. I knew what it was like to do that. And when Paul got back, my leader got back into the car, I opened up to him. I was transparent. I was like, look, this is what happened. And he, he spoke some truth into it. He said, well, next time you get that, just go ahead and be obedient. That way God can do what he wants to do with that. And then you can experience that part of it. Because now you know what it's like to be rebellious, because that's what you did. I was like, yeah, I feel it right now. I feel kind of bad. And so that has always helped me to be obedient. I haven't always got it right, but I've probably been more obedient than I have disobedient.
Yeah, well, praise God for mercy and grace. That's awesome to be able to get back out there. And it's funny because I hear that and I'm like, oh my God, we sound almost like Moses when he's telling God, but God, I don't speak very well for the God. I can't. Because the first time I read that, I was like, oh my goodness, this sounds like us. Juggling and trying to reason our way out of God.
Right.
Out of his grace. No, that's crazy. Well, what can people do who are starting their walk? What can they do to help themselves stay planted?
Man, you can't just. I mean, I've always been in church, and just been there. Other churches, and when I came here, I just started out just kind of being there. But then once I started interacting with the people, getting closer to them, learning their ups and downs, their strengths and weaknesses. Once you start learning this and you start seeing all of us have a lot in common.
Yes.
If you've heard their testimony, there's some stuff in your testimony that you can relate to real close. And you're like, wow. So you've actually gone through something real similar to this part of mine. And that's what's helped me kind of get in closer. Just paying attention and opening up to those who are around you, and having a ear to listen, not just to hear, because you could hear anything, but if you actually listen, then you can take in a whole lot more.
That's awesome, man. Heck yeah, because I remember first coming in and I was just scared. I mean, that's the only I can really if I describe it all in one word, I was scared. I took the first step to get there, because I had prayed about growing closer to the Lord, and I ended up marrying this lady whose whole family's embedded in the church.
Yeah.
So now I'm there. What do? I can't run from this because they're expecting me to come to church every weekend. And that's a great thing because we have so much that we do in the church and we do it together, and going in and actually meeting and talking to everyone, I really felt that because I had to figure out who are these people, and that was the biggest thing. I didn't want to relate to anybody. I wanted to get known. I didn't want to relate to anybody. I just wanted to do this by myself. But now that I know that we do this walk together, it's really opened up a lot, and I feel the joy of the Lord. Is you walking out?
Sorry, I got a cramp.
Yeah. Oh no. Well, Arron, man, sorry about your cramp. Thank you so much for your time. It really means a lot to us to sit down and do this. And like I said, I told you before the interview, this isn't for us, man. This is for everyone who needs it. Doesn't matter if you're just now for choosing God, if you're just now going to church for the first time, or if you've been there for 40 plus years. This is for you. If you've heard anything you needed, then soak it in and remember to put God first again. Anyway, thank you, brother. God bless you. Love you. All right, we're done. High five. One more five. There we go.